Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio. He just makes me laugh. Old enough.
McLovin.
Old enough to
McLovin.
What? To party.
What is, everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are what?
Chicka.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
We're back in the 6th grade because we're going back to high school, even though 6th grade isn't high school. We're going back to high school, place where awkward moments, peer pressure, and the lasting lessons that define who we grow up to be all clash together, sometimes in one night. Today's marquee topic is the smash hit that redefined the coming-of-age comedy films known as Superbad. Before we get started, I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
I'm Caitlin.
And I am Josh. And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks. Like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get access to channels on our Discord server that are only for you guys, the Nerd On Nation members. Lots of fun stuff, so do check it out. nerdon.tv/Patreon. We're really, really close to one of our goals, which is 60 members of the Nerd On Nation. And when we reach that goal, the nation gets to choose a topic for one of our episodes. And that can be anything. It can be like a comic book, a movie, one season of a show. There's a gamut that can be covered. So yeah, the Nerd On Nation members will get to choose that. And a huge shout out to our partners, Apogee and Odyssey. They just make good shit.
That's true.
Apogee makes the hype mic. We literally right now use it for everything that we make, from the podcast to our streams, everything. And Odyssey headphones, we're using their LCD ones. If your ears were mouths, they taste like butter. And they're Mobius. They're Mobius headphones we are often using on our streams. Fantastic headphones, comfy, sound amazing. Check them out, Odyssey. But yeah, stop by, rate and review if you like what you hear today. And share us with your friends and family. It's good stuff. But yeah, that's the housekeeping. And before we move on to the episode, I just want to say something. So we've talked about this on our episodes where we've said, we have meetings about how we choose our topics and all that kind of stuff. And oftentimes a lot of thought goes into what our episodes are. But sometimes
My eyes roll out.
sometimes we go, Caitlin might say, I haven't seen that. And we go, cool, it's going on the schedule.
Yeah.
Like this.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened with this episode. I was like, I've never seen that before. And they're like, what?
And it's like, well, this has to happen. We have to cover this. So
Didn't that happen when we were doing Dope?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit more anger on my side, but yeah.
Why? What? Why?
Because I was mad that no one saw Dope.
I think none
Oh,
of us had
that's fair.
seen it. So
Yeah, I seen it. I've been telling y'all, but this is not about the Dope. This is about
You don't have to get
Superbad.
so angry all the time.
I get
Tom.
mad at everything, Josh.
That's
Feel
true.
something other than feeling numb in this world.
Wow.
I want you to
That's
feel
nice.
how I feel.
But Superbad was more like, yeah, of course Caitlin hasn't watched it. But yeah, who brought it up as a suggestion? I want to know. Like,
Probably me.
Well, we were
If I
talking
had to
about
guess,
Dope, and I think you
Yeah.
mentioned that it was a
it's
little like
Superbad with more
Superbad.
heart.
yeah.
And Caitlin had
then-
a glazed look of like, I haven't seen that. And
I was like,
So wait, a movie I haven't seen is like another movie I haven't seen, but with more heart? I don't know.
yeah.
That's about right.
Yes.
That's about right.
But with that, is all the housekeeping done, Josh?
yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
All the housekeeping is done. That brings us to our first 2 segments, everyone. So right now, our first one we're going to start with deals with the end of the episode.
Yes, it does.
If you are familiar, then you know that brings us to Guess That Grump.
Superman,
Blood Brothers.
They accidentally fall in love instead.
So
I
everyone,
kind of
if
wish
you're
that
brand spanking
somebody
new-
would like
no
animate
remix.
silhouettes.
No
It's never
remix.
happening.
This is just the perfect way we're gonna go.
I'll
This
stop
is
talking,
Cell.
Tom.
Perfect
I'll just
form.
shut the fuck up.
After he absorbed Gohan.
I'll just
Perfect
shut
form
up.
Cell.
He doesn't know what that means, Tom.
But those who do, y'all the real ones. If you're brand new to Guess That Grumps, Grump.
Wow.
This is a segment where we are going to go around the screens. If you can't see us, all this Discord messed me up. We're going to run the screens and guess who's going to have the lowest score from 1 out of 5. No matter how high the number is, the lowest one will be the Grump for the week. Since I always explain and I just mess it up, Josh, go first.
I think the Grump will be Caitlin.
Okay. I think the Grump will be
Jesus, so
Corey.
What? Sorry.
Okay.
I'll go next because Corey can't. I'm gonna guess the. Yeah. Oh, you know, Josh.
I actually almost picked Josh, but
You didn't.
But I didn't.
You picked me.
I did.
I'm gonna pick Caitlin though.
Okay.
Why none for me?
It was
seems-
between you and Caitlin.
Okay.
This seems like right up your alley, actually.
And with that, I'd like to talk to you about something. Everyone listening, turn up your volume real quick.
Whoa.
Listen, what I want to talk about is how you can participate in the show. Are you sitting in your car or at work or with your headphones on at the gym, screaming at one of us to vote for Tom because you think he's going to be the Grump? Well, guess what? You can guess that Grump, and if you get it right, you're the grass-fed Gatorade Grumpin' Gator
Gold Slinger.
Gold Slinger. Gold Slinger.
Gold
Gator Grumper Guesser, Gator Grumper Guesser. That's right. If you join the Nerd On Nation today, you could vote on who you think the Grump would be, and if you get it right, you get a shout out on the show. Doesn't that sound super bad?
Yeah.
You see what I did there. And with that, the Nerd On Nation has spoken, and I only reference yelling that Tom is the Grump because they voted for Caitlin as the Grump of this episode.
I was really ready to be cocky about that, and it blew up in my face.
Yeah, well, you can't trust me with this.
Are we still talking
anymore
about the
because,
movie? Sorry.
I've discovered the art of deception with the Nerd On Nation Guess That Grumpers. So if you get it right, you're gonna get a shout at the end of the. So stick around for the end of the show where we do that.
So
Thank you for that. Now,
Yeah, man.
now we'll go to our next segment where we're going to do our initial reactions and our first impressions. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll jump in. Here we go. I said this in the digital green room that I think while this movie has a wide appeal, I think I might have been the starting point, the epicenter of who this target audience is for. Not only am I a middle-class white kid, but I graduated in 2007 when this movie came out about graduating, and I never really partied in high school ever. So I felt when this movie came out, to a degree, I mean, that's kind of where the similarities end. But to a degree, I was like, this is my comedy. This is
when they pitched it and they asked, "What is your target audience?"
They held up a
Exhibit
picture of
A,
me.
and they had a picture of Corey Powers.
Yeah, they had a picture of me, on my last few months of high school. So it spoke to me in a way that definitely
Touched you.
I mean, obviously, it spoke to a lot of people because, like we said at the top of the show, it redefined this genre of comedy of we can tell stories for this age group that aren't kind of sheltered and aren't kind of, hiding something or speaking to a lower emotional intelligence.
Not patronizing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll leave it at that for now. I felt spoken to.
I'll go next. I'm a little younger than Corey. So this one kind of popped that cherry for me of oh wow, cool, a teen movie that's rated R. I can't go in. So it was cool, and I definitely had this movie made an impact on me because I have shout out to one of my closest, oldest friends, Alex Hernandez. Him and I would have the longest, most extra ass handshake, and we would incorporate every single thing we could incorporate from every movie we'd watch together. And the boop boop definitely became part of this. And Blood Brothers. And Blood Brothers became part of this. Yeah, this movie, I remember watching it and being a little younger. This wasn't the one that hit me as hard as it probably hit Corey. But there's a lot of it where I'm wow. So watching again for this episode, I was wow. I remember kind of being like this piece of shit kid. And I was like, okay, and then like as an adult, I'm like, you know, when I introduced myself, my back hurt because, you know, I just remember like I'm not that kid anymore. And
is that what that was?
yeah. And plus, you know, spice of life, baby. You gotta, you know, make it.
I thought you were referencing how many times he gets hit in the back in this. Jonah Hill gets hit in the back. In this movie.
He does get injured a lot.
But watching again, yeah, it's definitely like very of its time, and it very much set the trend of what was acceptable dialogue and also what rated R comedies would end up becoming. Like, I feel like this was like the beginning. You know, Judd Apatow definitely had like Freaks and Geeks and everything like that beforehand, but this was like the Judd Apatow essence.
Well, this is what you would call, well, it was the peak frat pack is what they call it. So frat pack was anything from Old School onwards in that era of comedy, because this definitely stands on the shoulders of something like Old School.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of because it's also very much American Pie, but like it also was like, but it's said the same way that we talk about things like in 40-Year-Old Virgin or in Knocked Up or in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, like that ilk of comedy was like very much like this thing, or it's like you could say whatever you want. There was no beating around the bush of like, oh, you know, when you reach the climax, it's like, oh, you know what, I bust. It's like, oh my god, they just say it like that. Yeah. So it was that to me. Yeah. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. First experience, I remember
Hollywood
I worked
Video?
at Hollywood Video. Yeah. I remember it being like, it was an incredibly popular, at the time, I didn't really go to very many movies because I worked at a video store. When movies came out, it was like I could rent them for free. So oftentimes I would just wait. And I just remember the new release wall, a whole bay being Superbad, and like the unrated edition was there too. And
yeah,
like
man. I watched that in prep for this too.
Yeah. So I think I put this one off because I think that it, like, at the time I remember it being, there was a lot of hype, and I think I was like, oh, I'm going to put it off. And then I remember watching it, and like, I think the chemistry between Michael Cera and Jonah Hill is just, I just love watching them together, just, and knowing how much improv went into this movie. It's like, oh my goodness. I just, and watching it again for this, I thought that I was going to be like old man Manly, like, oh, that's not funny anymore. And I'm like, I make those jokes with Bonnie too many times. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This
Tom's face right
now.
now.
Did I just learn something?
I think you did.
No, just inappropriate humor that you're just like, oh my God, this is so funny. Yeah.
When we get to spoilers, I'll be like, I feel like Josh. Okay, go on. Okay, anyways, go ahead. I'm done.
No, I mean, not much else to say except for it's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Take it away, Kaylin.
So,
first time.
This was the first time I had seen this movie in preparation for this episode. I did not watch the unrated version. I just watched what was on Netflix. And I knew from the silhouettes dancing in the beginning how the movie was going to go. And I like braced myself because it is cringe, but known cringe. They know they're being cringy. And it was like the way that they were dancing was like, you're not just being like an awkward teen. You're being a very thoughtful, awkward teen. So that's going to be this entire movie. And yes, that's exactly what it was. I will say, whether or not this will throw people off, I had some hot rod feels.
That was my guess.
But not the whole time. And I didn't leave the movie angry or upset. I liked it. With caveats.
So we're gonna watch Hot Rod next.
No, we're not. We will not do that.
Well, the Nerd On Nation knows what they're
La La
recommending once we reach 60.
Right after. That's how that will go.
Nice. And Rubber.
And Rubber. That's how that. We'll just have a month of hating ourselves. That's what that will be. That'll be the only time I watch
it does something good for the soul.
No, it doesn't.
So we'll move on to
Here's
our
a fun
next...
fact about that dance, by the way. That was just Michael Cera on set, and they were like, just dance. They didn't have anything. And there's an hour-long footage. He danced for an hour, and they took footage from that, edited it together.
You got paid for that.
Yeah. Well, they were like, they thought they were going to do just like 10 minutes, and he was going to be like, that's all I got. And he just kept going until they were like, all right, stop. And he's like, okay. Like, he just was like, I'm just going to go till they yell cut, and no one yelled cut.
George Michael.
Wow, I wonder
sweet,
how many
sweet George
people took a
Michael.
coffee break to be like, I wonder how long it'll go. And then
I mean, I don't think anyone took
in
a
the
coffee break. They're just
background,
probably getting coffee regardless. They're like, just
Yeah,
run the camera, walk away.
But like people who were like near the monitor and stuff, like watching, I was like, how long do you think he's gonna go? And
The initial
like,
the premise was to use it for the menu for the DVD, so they wouldn't have to loop it. It would go for an hour of different dance moves, and
Wow.
but then they didn't. I
Wow.
think they didn't end up using it.
that's even better.
So since that kind of gives you an idea of what our numbers, we'll go on to our next two segments, which are going to be our brief synopsis and then our production. The brief synopsis will be by...
That'll be by me. Two inseparable best friends navigate the last weeks of high school and are invited to a gigantic house party. Together with their nerdy friend, they spend a long day trying to score enough alcohol to supply the party and inebriate two girls in order to kickstart their sex lives before they go off to college. Their quest is complicated after one of them falls in with two inept cops who are determined to show him a good time. And scene.
Bada bing,
That's
bada
it.
boom. And then the
Production.
production.
It was distributed by Sony Pictures, who's released things like Terminator, Jumanji, and Spider-Man. The director was Greg Mottola from The Day Trippers, Adventureland, episodes of Dave. Producers, Judd Apatow from Freaks and Geeks, Bridesmaids, and The Cable Guy. And Shauna Robertson from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Elf. The writers were Seth Rogen from Pineapple Express, The Green Hornet, and Sausage Party. Evan Goldberg from Goon, This Is the End, Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. And the cast is Jonah Hill from Grandma's Boy, Click, and Accepted. Michael Cera from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Juno, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Seth Rogen from Knocked Up, The Disaster Artist, Zach and Miri Make a Porno. Bill Hader from Barry, The Skeleton Twins, and Trainwreck. And Christopher Mintz-Plasse from How to Train Your Dragon 2, Kick-Ass, Promising Young Woman. This released on August 17th, 2007. Runtime is 113 minutes. The budget was $20 million, and it has grossed $170.8 million.
Juno came out 2 months later, so Michael Cera was
He's
hot
a busy boy.
that year.
Quite so.
Yeah.
I remember him being the thing for a while.
I don't know why, but I did not write the Rotten Tomato score on that boy, but it's 88% from critics at 209 reviews and 87% from audience with 250,000 plus reviews.
A few.
Okay.
Jesus.
It's about even. It's about even,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
They
That's how it goes.
view it pretty correctly.
Those listening,
I feel.
we're moving into spoiler country.
Spoiler town.
We're here. So if you're hoping to not have this, 14-year-old movie spoiled for you, leave, watch it,
14
come back.
years.
We'll be
wait.
here.
If you're
Just hit
also
that
Caitlin.
pause. We'll wait right there.
Yeah.
Hey, you come across different things in your life at different
Yeah.
times.
So hit pause now.
Yeah.
And welcome back.
Or-
Hope you
or-
enjoyed
Hi.
Superbad. We're going to talk about it now.
We're gonna do our
Here
favorite
we
parts,
go.
our favorite characters, our qualms, then finally our rating. I do want to mention one quick thing. I did really enjoy the excerpt, the anecdote of that this film was based off of Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's childhood.
They wrote it in high school.
This took years
first
for them
draft.
to make
Yeah, the first draft was written in high school and they revised. But a lot of
Yeah.
it is based off
their
things
experience.
that happened. Yeah. Which I thought was wonderful. And originally they were going to star in it. And even up into production, Seth was like, I think I can pull it off. And Evan was like, you're too fucking old, dude. You look like you fucking Jump Street, 40-year-old guy at high school. And then they met Jonah Hill and they were like, Jonah Hill came in and improvised with them in a trailer in between takes of something else. And they were like, oh, he's the guy.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
It's always funny because I remember I didn't know that before this recent watching, and so I knew that they had written it. I just didn't know it was based on their childhood. And so when you realize that the main characters are Seth and Evan, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And then I'm like, if you ever forget who's who, it's like, oh, well, Jonah Hill's supposed to be Seth Rogen. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I hate that laugh.
No, I love it. It feels like
Don't you love Lion King with Pumbaa?
It feels like a brown sugar and butter, and I'm just it's
a little bit of cinnamon.
It's so interesting how you can have two very different responses to something.
almost like it's our entire show.
It's crazy.
I'll start.
Yeah, Josh.
Favorite parts. My favorite part. There it is. Thank you. Next. No.
Tom knows this. At my wedding, the photographer was trying to get all the guys to smile, and at one point, I did that laugh, and he's like, "Yeah, everyone just do a Seth Rogen laugh," and that got us all to because we all started going. We all just lost it.
Favorite part.
That's what's happening in my wedding pictures, y'all.
Favorite part is always. It's at the end when Seth basically passes out into the girl's face, and she goes, "What the fuck?"
Into Jules' face. She's like, "What
Jules'
the fuck?"
It just makes me laugh because you go from this really kind of endearing. Yes, he's drunk, but he's putting his heart on the line, and then just totally ruins it, and just her "What the?"
I feel like this was the big people started knowing who Emma Stone was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's not. It felt like it. That's what this was.
And just hearing that sound bite, I remember in the trailers, there's what the, and I was like, yo, this movie's gonna be wild. It was she just said what the fuck in a movie, and so I was like, this is wild. So yeah, I remember that. That was huge.
The flip side of that, the entire scene where Evan's just you're so beautiful. I respect you so much during that. I could not stop laughing.
Oh, when she's trying
to be all sexy, and the whole
Becca?
time he's just you're so unique. And
he's actually
he classic trashed girl thing.
Yeah,
Evan is legit a good kid, and he's I like this
drunk,
girl, and I want to have sex.
Women.
And he's I'm down to party, but also I want to be ethical, and so he's overthinking it, which is a real thing.
The interesting part about this movie is it's suddenly a story of consent on both ends. Yeah, on both ends of the spectrum, which is it's not what you expect from the start of the film, but by the end of it, both parties are dealing with and enforcing consent, which is crazy.
And the thing
for 2007, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I feel also to me again, it laid a kind of a groundwork because, and this isn't to take away from it, but these films always are okay, cool. Here's about the cool, sexy, fun, sexy, raunchy shit, but also here's the real movie of two friends who are sad that they're leaving each other, and they're trying to hold on to their childhood. That's what all of them end up being. Knocked Up's just about becoming responsible. In 40-year-old versions, love yourself. It's never oh yeah, we're gonna have sex.
The circle back to if in one of the first scenes the first scene we see Seth and Evan together, his mom's are you gonna miss each other? And miss? No,
I don't miss anyone.
I don't miss anyone. And then the end of the movie, they're drunk together, and Michael Cera's character is going, when you went away for your vacation, I missed you. I didn't know what to do. And they're just having this really cathartic moment, which is full circle from the beginning of the film. All these things they couldn't say to each other. And again, as an 18-year-old middle-class white kid having that sleeper over on my floor. This was such a real moment for me coming out of high school and having to say goodbye to everyone I knew. And I was moving to New York for some reason. And so it was that moment, definitely in the theater, I was I have dirt in my eyes or something.
I'm not crying.
I'm sweating out of my eyes. I will say that one of my favorite parts of the film is I think not a conventional one. It's the very, very, very last shot. It's with Jonah Hill looking back and seeing Michael Cera's character up on the escalator. And, there's a nice, shot selection of he still feels a little bit lower than Michael Cera is because he's going to Dartmouth and he doesn't really respect himself, but he's on his own path. And again, an escalator, what other poetic thing of you are moving through time, yet you are at no control of it at all. Mm-hmm. And he does end up getting what he wants of having a chance to have a romantic relationship with Jules, but it's not without the cost of like growing up and quote unquote walking away from your friends. And I feel like that's such a very interesting shot to end off on a comedy, on a teen comedy like this. And that's where it ends up becoming a little bit more than what it's marketed in a way. But also I couldn't imagine marketing this film as like the coming of age story for our generation. Like, no, that doesn't work out.
I'll admit, Tasty D Money, Dustin, shout out. And I have definitely stolen that thing where like we've been somewhere with our significant others, like right out of high school. And, his girlfriend was like, oh, I want to go check this out. And my girlfriend was like, oh, but I want to see this. And we would just look at each other and go, you have my information? Yeah, I'll call you. All right. And we do that. Like, definitely lifted that from this film multiple times. I've done it with Mikey too, I think. We're like, you have my information? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll call you. Good seeing you.
Kaylin, favorite part?
I loved the house party when Michael Cera ends up in this room and
Singing.
then
With the
these
coke.
people just
These
bum
eyes
rush in
crying.
and like everyone's and that just happens at like
Who's this guy?
house
He can't
house
leave because it's
parties
awkward.
or convention parties. Like I have been trapped in those rooms before where like a horde of people will enter and you're like, I don't know any of you. And now you are
And then
partying in
"Who's
ways that I would like to leave. And the fact that like
I'm nobody.
it's that worst nightmare ever moment where it's
And they
like
start putting
not
coke
only
on the
did
table,
they-
and you're like,
not only did they spot you and are doing things that you would never want to be around, but they also singled you out as someone that they think has some special talent and they want you to perform in front of all of them. And I love that
It's
they
a do
were
or
all
die. It's a fight or flight.
So
all so into it.
intoxicated that he felt confident to go full force, even though he knew he was not good. But they were so messed up that he was like, they love this.
yeah,
they think I'm a great
it started out of
singer.
desperation, and then he just ran with it.
Yeah,
These guys have seen a lot of love, but they're never gonna see another one.
he just gets faster the second time.
Oh my
that was
God.
just like
crying.
I actually had to like I took my headphones off and put them to the side because cringe is just really hard for me to experience.
Oh my God.
But I could just like watch it be like
The last
like,
one he
even
trails
faster.
off because this fight starts. He's like, these guys have seen a lot of love, but they never seen one like you. And it kills me every time.
Just that and the green
Sing
beer.
for us.
The green beer was also amazing.
Oh.
Like seeing him empty out the detergent things, I'm like, he's not gonna rinse them.
No,
No,
way.
not
he's a
gonna
kid
rinse
who's desperate, and I get that sometimes. I get that. No,
And of course he like passed out face on the floor, hard mode, just black. Because all of them were drinking detergent beer.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
don't do this.
No
Hey,
one's
detergent
don't eat the
lace
Tide
beer.
Pods. Don't drink the detergent. Please.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
No.
those are some of mine.
Josh?
Another one for me just makes me laugh every time is on the soccer field. And Michael Cera's character goes, fucking calm down, Greg. It's soccer.
Yeah.
It's soccer. It's just
Why don't you go piss your pants again? That's like 8 years ago. People don't forget.
Dave Franco?
He's right.
Dude,
though.
one of my
They
that's
really don't.
Josh. That leads into one of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
That people don't forget is kills me every time.
I just love the
It's like 8 years ago. People don't forget.
I do like the hijinks at high school because of like, and that was the thing I felt a lot happened in senior year of like, no one cared about rules anymore. Like you jump into someone's like, what are you going to do? Expel me? I'm graduate. Like, and then someone's like, I'm gonna make sure you don't walk. It's like, okay, hold up.
senioritis,
You know, like-
full on.
Yeah, but it was just like, Seth running in on PE and being like, don't, like, I'm going to have to run laps again. Or like Fogel coming in during home ec class and it's like, Fogel, hey, get out. Like, I'm like, yeah, that was very
Hi.
I for sure definitely did that. And like, I really do feel like they captured a little, like a good sense of like, just the vibe of being in high school at a senior during your last week of like no one caring about anything and everyone's just kind of running their mouth and doing like parking in the staff parking lot and like going to go get a drink at like
real quick.
Teachers are supposed to park there. I fucking know that, Fogel.
That's another one of my favorite parts when he's like, why would you Just it's the delivery of just like, why would you park in the staff parking lot? I mean, you're not staff. It's so stupid, but it makes me laugh.
But that was a very common thing, at least in my high school, of like, yeah, the moment students had cars, they parked anywhere. And it got to the point where like they would literally stop having classes. They'd be like, all right, nothing's happening in session, because there would be an announcement of like, get this car out of this lot now. And I was like, oh God, come on, guys. Think you're all cool, but also can I get a ride home?
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I do like the physical comedy of it. I do like Jonah Hill getting hit by a car every other second. Just being like, oh my God, it's so bad for this guy. But also just like the guy that he tries to get like booze from, like goes to the party, he gets his ass whooped and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
John Lotrillo, shout out.
Yeah, I enjoy those kind of things, because it's just like, it is those like, oh my God.
He even foreshadows Dana pointed this out to me. I just never made the connection before. He was like, you look like this guy's brother.
Oh yeah.
Are you his brother? And then later on they're like, yeah, that's that guy's brother. And I just like never made that connection for some reason. That's total foreshadowing to him getting stuck in that room and singing.
But yeah,
Beautiful.
that party is pretty great, but also Blood Brothers is always really funny to me. I think that's just hilarious, because like it's Jonah Hill being like, Seth's character being like, I don't know what to do, so I'm gonna roll with it, and then I'm dancing, it's cool, and these are older people, and he's having a good time, and then he realizes like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake. Made a terrible mistake. Anyone else?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah. The moment that they answer the door at the party and Bill Hader goes, "Oh no, it's the cops," gets me.
Like, for real though? Okay.
Oh no, it's the cops.
For real though, not gonna lie, I've had plenty of like parties where cops have come, but like I've only been on one like commercial shoot where the production coordinator didn't actually like get the permit, and the cops came, and it was like, oh shit, things are getting real. That's the first thing the cop said. And I was like, that's terrifying. I don't care who you are in a comedy sense. When a cop says shit's getting real, or oh no, it's the cops, like, oh no, it's the cops. You shit yourself. You shit yourself. I promise you, every time. It's never like, hey, do you guys have this? Like, hey, you guys can't do this. It's like,
but then he's got to.
It's like when they know that they're a bad presence. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, when they understand the weight that they have. But then he's with a beard dancing in the living room afterwards. Oh, yeah. And Seth Rogen goes, I assume you all have guns and crack.
But also in the liquor store, I love Fogel. He just makes me laugh. Old enough.
McLovin.
Old enough to what? To party. I love his delivery of almost all of his lines.
He's so nervous.
It's not the going I'm worried about with ladies. It's the coming. Every time. And then you find out at the end of the movie, they're like, yeah, we knew you weren't 24, man. 25.
But I think there is like a nice, cute story there too of like, we wanted to also remind ourselves that we could still party, like, it's like, I shouldn't have cock blocked you. I should have cock guided you.
You should be guiding his cock, not blocking.
Yeah. And it's like these old guys who are trying to hold in their childhood. It's like also a little poetic of like Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg making this film of like, we're also reconnecting with their childhood in a way where, even though it's like decades later, for people who are your age, Corey, and it's like, oh well, like this is very representative of my growing.
Like there was an interesting interview with Bill Hader where he talks about that scene where they discover McLovin, in bed with this girl, and he was like, I was playing it for the comedy, and I got pulled aside, and they were like, hey, just do one where it's like, this is your friend, and they ditched you at some other party, and you find them at another party with other friends. And so he played it sincerely, and that's the scene that made it in, where he's like legitimately mad at McLovin for ditching him, and he was like, that's like the best note I ever got, was just to not play that scene for comedy, because it's already a ridiculous situation. And what we're saying is ridiculous, but to lean into the hurt of it, and I was like,
it is preceded by McLovin saying, I have a boner.
I know, dude.
I thought that funny.
I have a boner.
I have a boner. And like that's
Dana and I had to pause it because we were laughing so hard.
I do like the different experiences of like, okay, cool. We're at, like the third act. We're at the point where these heroes are supposedly going to achieve their goal. And Michael Cera is too good to a fault, quote unquote, for the theme of the story so far. And Jonah Hill is just like down on his luck. But then the guy who's been getting shit on the entire story, like everyone talking, she's like, shut the fuck up, oh. Just like doing that shit. He's the one who's actually like successfully like building confidence, dancing with the girl,
making friends,
and then like having
experiences, like
being quote unquote himself. And then like ends up going to have sex with the girl. Yeah. And then it gets, stopped. And there's a more character building moment. So, and then he gets that freeze yourself,
Dude, the moment from firing the first gun to the kill shot, like unloading the clip.
May I just say that, like, when he gets out of the cop car, smokes a cigarette and flicks it. I
was going to light on fire.
I thought that they were gonna die.
Oh no!
Because all that beer had poured all over,
but beer's
like
not
detergent
flammable.
Beer.
Yeah,
huh?
That's fair. Detergent beer, but I don't know if
detergent beer. I don't know if it's flammable, but that was the first thing I thought. Is like they're lying in a pool of detergent beer. Is that flammable?
But also, this movie has been really crazy so far.
I know
the way Evan runs away from the cops in that scene. He just gets up and he's the fastest kid alive. He's the fastest kid alive. I mean, the way Michael Cera runs. Go watch that scene again, and the way he gets up and runs
I love
with his
shot.
Like arms straight.
I love the wide angle shot where the street light ends, and then he just goes in the darkness. I'm like,
the kid's a freak.
And to me, I was just like, Martin Scorsese, I'm like, cinema. That's cinema, right? Cinema. Like into the darkness, like, oh.
He's gone. He's really gone.
Are you carrying me? I just saved you from the cops. You saved my life.
Josh, you had one.
One last one for me would be the Seth going into the grocery store and the imaginings that he's having, and like, are you 21 years old? Yes, you are, and gives him an $80 bill.
$80 bill, or the old woman. Enjoy fucking Jules. I will.
Just with also security guard grabbing the gold slick and then fucking chucking it to granny.
It's Big Trouble in Little China. He throws it, recatches it, and throws it back at him and slits his
throat. Yeah, like
it's just so ridiculous that you're like, yeah. He probably is imagining that.
Michael Cera's like, he's not doing that. That's not happening because he knows that he's going to go through those processes and then walk right back out.
I do enjoy this small nuance, and I think it's definitely from the improv of like small physical acting that happens with like when Jonah Hill explains the whole dick thing and the drawings, and then like Michael Cera's like, man, that's gay, and then he like touches his hand, and then he's like, all right, I gotta go. Like it's the small like touches his hand thing that I really enjoyed. Like
humor, yeah,
it's a
because
small
Tom did
stuff.
that to me at work.
Yeah,
all the time.
But it's like those things of like, this is friendship of like you physically touch each other and you pat each other on the back and you kind of like, hit each other or whatever. And it's like, yeah, those are like the small touches of like two people. It's not just two people heads talking, and delivering lines. So it's like
when they're shotgunning the beer and he turtle taps them, like
like those things to me, like, and I've said it I think multiple times on the show of like comedy doesn't really get me the same way I think it gets most people unless there's like a physical element, because most of the time it's just like a floating head delivering a line that I feel like you could have just read a book for that. But like having the physicality to it, having a performance to it, like makes it like part of the visual medium.
Like the home ec rant is wonderful, and every other, no offense, but everyone knows home ec is bullshit. No offense. I don't want to sit here and cook this fucking tiramisu. No offense. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to fucking tiramisu. When am I going to have to cook a tiramisu? No offense. It's fucking bullshit. So good. So good.
I do want to point out though, like it is like as an older man, it is interesting. Like between the two main characters, I was very much like, I feel like I wanted to be Evan, but that I very much acted like Seth in terms of the neurotic, everything matters right now. And all I want to do is have sex.
There might not be tomorrow.
There might not be tomorrow. And like, I've had parties and my biggest thing has always been like, do we have enough booze? And like, don't invite dudes, only invite girls because they're going to invite dudes anyways. And there's going to be like a fuck ton of dudes. And so like, I remember being like that. And I was like, wow. Like it to me almost set a way of like, this is kind of like very indicative of how the next 14 years are going to be for men. I was like, wow, very interesting. Very interesting. Any other favorite parts? Or we're going to go to the favorite characters.
Favorite character?
No, I mean, just for me, last thing I'll say on this is that these characters, while it was never my goal to get a girl drunk and hook up with her because I didn't drink till I was 21. I went to parties to take care of people and play.
You're a good boy.
That was like my whole thing. The way they talked to each other, though, was very much so. I mean, 2007 in high school, those were the conversations I had. Shit like that was wildly accurate. So watching this was like, definitely has some rose tinted glasses for me that I tried my hardest to get off, but it was just it's a time capsule of when I was 18, and it's hard to see past that because it's just very like the conversation about like lube and stuff like that was very real. Was very like, how does it do you they're not supposed to see it? They are supposed to see it? I don't know what do we do? What's happening? How do I react?
But also, you should have a condom just in case all times. You don't expect it, but just in case.
But like, I definitely had those moments where my friend would do something like that, and I was like, or vice versa, and be like, "You didn't tell me about this.
Yeah,
you got to talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not part of the plan. What fucking plan are you talking about? I just
general
came prepared.
outline.
You just could have told me that you were bringing that. Like that was very. I felt that in my bones, in my plums. Anyway, moving on to favorite characters.
Favorite characters. One of the two, and then one that's a side character.
Okay, I can do that. Evan and Jules.
Okay.
For sure. I think Evan has some of my favorite lines. I mean, like, while I don't get me wrong, Evan and Seth play off each other brilliantly, but Evan had some of the best little underrated, like totally Michael Cera delivered one-liners and stuff that just knocked it over the plate for me.
These pants make me look weird. Those pants make a lot of things look weird.
Yeah, and he's like, I just wish you would take them off now. But then Jules, just because every scene she's in, Emma Stone is perfect in this. She's I can't help but watch her in the scenes, even though she's surrounded by the main character.
Definitely affected me.
Those are mine too. Evan,
Kaylin, Josh.
I'll go next because mine is a copy paste. Pretty much the same reasons. Just anytime Evan is on, any of his little one-liners, and they're not said, they're just like thrown out, and you're just like, and I appreciate
that's because he had that Arrested Development background, man.
Yeah,
that's their humor.
He got to play with like the Titans.
Yeah. He was ready for it.
Yeah.
Kaylin?
Evan and Jules as well. I feel like I'm just not really as tied to anyone else.
Same. Evan and Jules for me. I think as a younger man, I would have been like Seth all day, but as an adult, I'm just like, Seth is a toxic piece of shit. And,
I would say honorable mention Fogel, just because he just makes me.
I mean, yeah, and that's the tough thing with the whole cop story is very much like this could have been a whole other movie.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I mean, my honorable mention then is Bill Hader.
My honorable mention would have been Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
Michael Slater. But no, yeah, I think Jules. I mean, Emma Stone. Yeah, I think definitely like this, and then after that, Zombieland was like, oh, I have now experienced on live action movies like this type of romantic interest in a way, and now I'm glad that like she's not always romantic interest. She could play other characters, but this definitely was like big for me as a young lad. But
sure.
Also she I really liked how I guess her character was kind of like I liked the popular girl that was gazed upon, but also like she's just like a good person. Like she doesn't drink, she's hold a party, and she's like, oh yeah, I want the alcohol for everyone else, but I don't do it for myself. And like,
not while you're drunk.
Yeah, and it's like I would maybe even think about potentially, dating you, but maybe when you're sober minded and all that stuff, it's like it's not out of the picture. So obviously, again, it's not like a whole like you're cool now, I'm cool, I've always been cool, so you come up to my level. It's like she's just a person,
Yeah.
There is something nice, I think, with Becca of like very sweet, but also like very like, oh, she's always had a thing for him. So it's like, there's a lot of interesting things as a dude watching like that kind of come into revelation. But Jules takes the cake.
Oh, the boob punch.
Oh, I know.
Been there, son. Been there. Uncomfortable.
Now we'll go to our qualms, our 2 qualms per person. Who wants to go first? I'll go
last.
first.
Go for it.
I'll go first. Okay, so it's not really anything. It's more just like writing and characterization. It's just it hasn't aged in a way where I think I would find it like that's why like I love Dope so much more is because I feel like it's aged very well. With Superbad, like I'm not gonna hate it because
it's also
like,
a newer film.
Exactly. I'm not gonna hate it because Superbad, like that is the vernacular. That is, and like
this movie started DTF.
Yeah, I did say a lot of the shit that Seth said as a kid, and I grew up to be this person who is always still trying to become a better person. But like every wrong thing Seth does, there's Evan. Like Seth is just like, yeah, she looks like she could take a good dick, and she's a good fucker, blah blah. And Evan's like, could you not talk like that? Like Evan's
you think
there.
That's a compliment,
and it's good, and I like that. But it's also just kind of like, Jesus, Seth, my God, like it's kind of like full blown, and I don't know if that's within the script or within the improv. But also that's also
column A, column B.
Yeah, it's a little point of the direction of like, how far do we really want to go? But I think there is a little bit of a sense of like there should be that level of like there is this toxic masculinity of fragile, like I need to prove myself, and then there's Evan.
There's consequence for it all too.
Yeah, there's Evan who's like, hey, let's do that. And then the second thing is more like without that last thing I said about Jules and Becca. A lot of the jokes are made at women's expense. I don't think a lot of women get to take part in the jokes. Which is not. I mean, like the thing is, it's a story about 2 horny guys, 3 horny guys. Where I think there has been experiences where we get a little bit more of the quote unquote, I'm going to use this trope term, female conquest story of women who are like, all right, well, if you do this, like, then I'm going to make you feel bad for that. And they get a little bit at the very end, but it's kind of like almost inconsequential. It kind of buttons it up in a nice way where the characters get to be like, oh, well, it's a mash between like Hitch of like, be yourself, and then your romantic interest will recognize that and respect it and possibly like it. And then there's a little bit of like, well, this should be your comeuppance of like, well, now you're going to buy me the cover up because you gave me a black eye kind of thing. But it doesn't kind of go into more of the humility sense of it of like, Jonah Hill should definitely get more comeuppance of it. And what we get from it is just more of like, here's Seth being like this kind of shitty, insecure boy, which is par for the course. It's high school and we get it. And there's emotions and all stuff. But I think there could have been a little bit of like hearing Becca being like, I'm going to fuck the shit out of Evan, and being like, yeah, I want to hear that. Like, instead of it's a little bit more coy and like, hee, giggle, giggle, giggle. And then like, you know who I am as a dude. I love hearing anybody getting sex, and I think it should be more empowered. So like, I'm not like mad at like, oh, Tom doesn't want people having sex. Like, no, I want to hear how women crave for that too, because I think there needs to be space for both. That's my sense.
I'm just going to go next because mine's very much related. Part of the aspects of this movie didn't age well for me, and it really is the same kind of aspect of like jokes made at women's expense. There is a little bit of a taking advantage of situations that. But again, it's kind of a movie of its time. We've talked about other movies like this where it was like, well, it's a movie
come a long
of its
way
time.
in 14 years.
Yeah, we've as
Thankfully.
a population in entertainment and all that kind of stuff, we've come a very long way. A movie
now
like
we have
that,
Booksmart.
a movie like this would not be able to be made today and be like largely commercially successful as Superbad was. I don't think. So I mean, yeah, that's. I can't really think of anything else, but that was the one thing that I kind of hung up on. I just didn't age well for me. Why do you have a cheeky grin, Tom?
Because I was really hoping you would say like, I hated how many times they said pussy. I was like, this is.
I got put in my place a few episodes ago, so I stopped.
You didn't, but
it's interesting to hear it here and all that stuff, and it's like,
you didn't.
Yeah, like it's in the episode. I mean, in the show, in the movie of like. Pussy's like, stop being a little pussy. And it's like, yeah, that's how fucking people talked. And then like knowing where it is now and like how many comedians have now used the term of like, yeah, the most powerful thing in the world that creates all life. It's like, yeah, I am a pussy. And so like it's just funny as well as like how the lexicon has evolved with that. But I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason I had cheeky face. Kaylin and Corey?
Cheeky.
Caitlin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on. I won't make that a qualm since that's just kind of a given that, of course, I'm not thrilled about a lot of jokes being at women's expense. I was really annoyed with there were so many things that were just like left unfinished. Like there was a lot of unfinished business. It felt like for me, like the car thing is just like we've washed that away. That never comes in. His mom never comes back, even though Seth like has a weird thing with her. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have Dope to compare this to, which Dope wrapped everything up, had so many like tiny things that were like referenced, but then fixed or like addressed later. And in this, it was just kind of like, this is here for this specific joke. Go away now. Like, so that kind of bothered me a little bit. He says the mom
thing at the end again too.
Yeah.
Anyway, your mom's hot.
Yeah,
which was like, I'll throw this out there. I had the hot mom in high school, and it's not a thing that gets wrapped up. It is a thing that just goes away.
Well, it's something that gets used because people know it can go into your skin. And so it's
rather that like she was only brought out to be a pair of boobs and then she never came back. That's what I mean. Like she was only brought out to be a pair of boobs that he can later reference of being like, those boobs are hot on your mom. Like that's all she was there for. And then she got washed away. The car was there so that they could wash away the car. Like, so it was just things like that, which is totally just like plot moving things.
Or joke elements instead of story.
Joke elements, yeah. But that kind of bugged me. I had a second one, but I'm blanking on it. Corey, you go ahead and I'll see if I remember it.
This is why I write things down.
Yeah.
I mean, the only qualm I had was the same. It's, and it's not even really, it doesn't affect the score. Again, it's a movie of its time, 14 years ago. And I think it's a movie written by specific people. I don't think it's up to Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg to tell a story about women in high school because it's not their experience. Yeah, Tom.
And also it's like not, to me, I think there's a very big difference of like glorifying the behavior.
Right.
Where I think this film does really good at the beginning to show that these are the losers.
Yeah.
And it's not that the losers get their way, but like they are kind of like whatever. They're losers who have nothing better to do. And again, it's that I feel like again, it's the problematic tendency in conversation that they have. That's like it is a part of the time, but also everyone grows. And I think that's where like you don't hear Seth talking like that anymore.
No.
After
and that's to your point at the end, no one gets Seth doesn't get punished for anything he does. Which isn't much. He said some things to his best friend, and that's kind of where it ends. But at the same time, he's also not rewarded until he comes into his own and matures and decides to, oh, well, I could just be myself then. And then the universe goes, well, then here you go. Here's your friendship finally coming to a place of comfort with your best friend, even though you might be leaving each other. And here's someone you could fall in love with. So while it is, the women aren't developed. I mean, I just have that note, women not developed. It's tough because it's not that story. So I don't, being from 2007 and not being that story, I don't knock it too much, but that would be my main qualm.
Did that second one come up?
Yes, it did. The cops.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that just like,
no,
I'm not about it. The power stuff. I mean, that's the point, is like they're bad cops. They're
also that no way in the world this exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Like shooting up streets, drinking on the job, all that shit. Like, and they've never got in trouble for that.
Check yourself. I grew up in a small town where that definitely happened.
I mean, I would
Like
it's
100%
it's
that
unfortunate
happened.
to say, like, I can't believe that would exist. But to
It
me,
does.
yeah.
And it was like one of those things where I was like, these guys, cool, great. Like, that's very real. It's very uncomfortable. So yeah, that was like a too real, don't like. Like it was a plead for comedy, but because it's like a real thing, it was very uncomfortable for me personally.
And this place takes place like in that area, right? Does like to me, like I have California goggles, right? Because I've only lived in California.
Well, no, it
Right.
takes place in LA.
Does it take place in LA?
Yeah, you can see the street signs and stuff.
Clark County is where it is, I think.
Okay. The only reason I asked that is because Evan's character is like, you're the best looking thing on this side of Mississippi. And so I was like,
I think that's just
and I was like, yeah. I
A
don't know if that-
general statement that
yeah, and I was
doesn't
like, are they
necessarily
not
give any.
in LA? Because it feels like they were trying to be LA, but not LA. And that's why I'm like, is this small town or is this big city?
I thought it was small town, but I'm probably wrong.
Well, like, and I recognize some streets. I'm like, that looks very LA, but like,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, I don't know. That's why for me,
they
like,
show
in
the street names a lot.
in
So I think
California, I
that's all.
can't imagine that. But if it's in other places in America, for sure. That's why I'm like, no, like, you can't shoot in the middle of the night and then all of a sudden no one's gonna come out.
Yeah,
Like, someone comes out. Someone comes out all the time
in LA.
in LA,
In LA.
or at least in
Yeah.
California. Because to me, I'm like, come on,
It does take place in Los Angeles.
it does take place in Los Angeles. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think they even show the bus routes on the bus that they take.
So
for
maybe
sure.
that's what makes the cops feel more unrealistic because there's no way they could get away with that from the sheer number of people that are everywhere here.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
'cause,
they're
I mean,
not.
the
It's
t-
not sparsed out locations
Yeah.
that they're in. You
And
can
the-
see it's house to house to house.
the city doesn't feel
Right.
small towny, you know. That's
Because like frame of reference for like hearing a gunshot, like in Indiana, everyone hunts, like kids hunt. So for you to hear a gunshot at any hour of the day, someone's probably shooting a bird
Yeah.
or a deer or whatever.
Judging by the cop's reaction, though, of the other guy trying to get him to not do it because it'll cause a rustle, I think that's the indicative that it's not somewhere like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Now we'll move on to the ratings.
So first would be
Ratings.
Tom.
First, so you know what's interesting? I want to tell you a little story. Corey had a little story the last few times we've had ratings. And so again, Corey is the absolute audience for this. And I think I was like 1 degree away just because I was a little younger. Another raunchy teen comedy of age movie was like mine. That being said, with this, I have not come back to this movie multiple times. I watched it once, I liked it, and I would watch it, whenever a friend had it on. And then, but I never like go back, like, I got to go watch that again. Like, to me, it is what it is, and it's where it's from. But I don't think my number has ever changed. Like, I think I'm like, yeah, that's about where I had it then. Like, it's funny, it's good, but it wasn't something I always reference. Like, Corey could reference every line from that movie because it had that impact for me. Like, I know particular things. So for me, the 3.5.
Whoa.
3.5 for me. And
3.5.
I was like thinking, like, actually, as my older self comes out and like trying to see what the story is and X, Y, and Z, like, I thought it actually would have been lower, but I'm like, no, that's about the same way I felt about it. Like when I was younger, I was like 3.5. It's like really good, but it's not, I wouldn't put it in the higher echelon, but it's still good.
Joshua.
Joshua, mine's a 4. Good solid 4.
Solid
Let me
4.
write that down. Solid 4 for Josh. Tom, what's my score?
Corey's is a 4.4.
Oh, so close. 4.5.
Oh my God.
4.5. 4.5 for me. Again, I understand that some of that is I was the audience for it. I was the target audience. It just like checks.
You were like the
boxes.
golden audience, like
Yeah.
the time frame, the age, like where you were in high school, like that kind of thing. Like,
Yes. It just hit at the right time, So yeah. 4.5.
If we do my, I guess, sweet darling of a teen comedy,
Yes.
which by far
We will.
by many
We will.
writing point is not as good as Superbad is, but it ends in a way that I like it more.
I gave Dope a 4.9,
Okay,
but so this is 4.5.
I gave Dope a 5, I think. So
I think
I
I
gave
can
it a
tell you.
5.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Everyone did. I gave it a 4.9.
So what is Kate?
I had Superbad hold me back on the dope episode. Just that 0.1%. Caitlin.
Mine is a 4.
Oh my goodness. What did I say?
I told you. I had
What
some
did
hot
I
rod
say?
vibes. There was some cringe, but they for what this is for the time that it came out, they did handle a lot of things well. No, it didn't age well. And yes, it is definitely from a teenage boy perspective, but it is a teenage boy perspective. And they don't necessarily have the viewpoint of the females at that pointed time.
But also,
I think-
so like
oftentimes
aged
Seth
better
is
than
put
any
in his
other-
place.
yeah.
Like there are oftentimes
Yeah.
where it's like he gets his comeuppance, so to speak, and
not
like
the full, but
Yeah.
at least there's like some kind of, and it, something that was starting to hang me up was like, why on earth would Jules try and be with Evan? Why on earth, or Jules try
Seth.
and be with Seth? Why, what are these motivations? But then at the same time, like, I know that I was like always after the kind of asshole guy in high school. So I was like, yeah, we make dumb decisions.
Eyes rolling in the back of my head.
Yeah,
and falling
well,
out, Caitlin.
it happens. Well,
Um,
that's why Jules went after Seth the next day and was fine with talking to him. Is like, you don't realize because you're so set in your bubble that like you wouldn't want to deal with that like long term. No.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna say. I was like, the thing that would have made this a little higher for me is completely outside of what the story is gonna say, and that's why like it's not like a
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna put it against it, but like my overall enjoyment of the film is still very much like in that range, and like I'm surprised. I'm like, yeah, I remember watching it. I'm like, I think it's gonna be about this because I remember that's how I felt about it, and there's other comedy teenage stories I grew up on. Like I've watched multiple times, but again, Corey was like, they were like algorithm put it into and they
Yeah.
popped out like Corey Powers.
Yeah.
So like for me, I was
get
like,
it.
soon.
I get it. Yeah.
And if we ever do the one that I'm like,
We will.
this was mine. I would imagine, I hope everyone's scores are a lot lower than this because it's just weird. It's just weird. It's fine.
May I just say after all this, and yes, Tom is the grump.
Yeah. I was about to get, I'll take care of that in a minute. Go for it.
But there was a part of me that wished the Blood Brothers situation had happened a little differently. Because him throwing up at the retching at the sight of the blood. I feel like
Yes and no, but also imagine you're at a party where you know no one and you have blood on your clothes from someone else.
Well,
right,
or you
but
had
I'm
semen
saying
on your clothes from someone else, I guess.
I'm saying like his reaction to it could have been gone a different way. Because I've also had conversations with people in high school where they're like, nah, women are like warriors that bleed every month. It's so fucking metal. Like, I just wish
Sure.
that they could
He's
have.
not one of those guys.
I know. Well,
See,
everyone
for me,
treated
as
it
someone
that way.
who even when my own hair gets in my food, I gag.
Right.
Well,
That would be me. If I got someone else's blood, male or female, on my clothes, on my leg at a party where I knew no one, that would be my reaction. That would be my reaction to get bodily fluids on me from someone else.
I'm
Even
not-
the loogie that the guy spits, I would.
I'm
happening.
going to speak it from someone I feel like I used to be like Seth. And so for me, it's like the concept and the idea of conquest and power of my penis and X, Y, and Z
Mhm.
is like cool, and it's more of an ego thing. And then actual human bodily function of the idea of it all like is more like National Geographic. And so the idea of that where like a woman, and there's period blood on your leg, it's not the fact like, oh, well, she's a grown woman and she's hit puberty and this is just that time of month, but also maybe wear underwear, I don't know. But it's like just that concept of like, oh, I'm too close to a thing that I didn't want,
Right.
like why is sex okay? But then childbirth is like, a horror movie, like they're both kind of beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're a
Yeah,
17-year-old boy,
No,
Yeah.
I totally get it. I've worked with people who were like, oh my God, don't even talk about tampons. I will throw up.
Well, see, I'm
Like-
not. I grew up with women, and I could talk about that stuff. But getting someone else's blood on me is at a party I don't know.
Yeah.
If it was a friend or someone I knew, great. I don't know this person. I'm 17 years old and I have blood on my leg. No,
Yeah,
thanks.
I get it.
Ain't happening.
This is just literally like a personal preference of wishing they had done something different with it other than blah. But
Sure.
I also understand that that's more common of a response.
LA people, and your people.
Tom is a grump though at
I am.
3.5.
So who voted for me?
Dana P. Shout out. That's it. That's the only name. That's the only person who voted for you. Let me double check, but I'm like 99.999% sure. Yep, that's the only vote. Dana P.
Amazing.
Surprise!
Congratulations, you're the gas-fed Gator Grumper, gassy
Gold Slick.
Gold
Nice,
Slick
Dana.
Gator Grumper.
Nice.
Which later on, also, I will say, I definitely looked for Goldschlager afterwards, and I was like, I gotta go try this.
Gold Slick.
Yeah, it's not Gold Slick vodka. I had Goldschlager schnapps, I think, but it has the gold flakes. And I was like, who cares? This is dumb.
I think they even reference. She even says it's dumb.
Yeah.
She's like, I know.
No, she says it's really girly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
He's like, it's classy.
Nice.
That's
Superbad.
That's it.
We did it.
Sing us out.
Everybody at home, tell us what you thought of Superbad. Slip and slide into our DMs. Come on to the Discord that I talked about earlier, nerdon.tv/Discord. There is a movie channel in there. Let's continue the conversation over there. Do consider
What
joining.
teenage romance do you like?
The Notebook.
Do consider joining that Nerd On Nation. It does allow us to grow, be the best that we can be. It's how we've been able to upgrade our equipment, all that kind of stuff, our content. It's because of the nation. Support. I love it. Thank you so much. If you are new to Nerd On, check out our website, nerdon.tv. It has all of the information on everything that we do. All of our podcasts are everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, because all of the episodes are video. So check it out. You can see all of our shenanigans over there. Stop by, rate and review, share us with your friends, your family, all of that good stuff.
Do you guys know what it's like to get a review from you guys?
Oh man, I'm really interested in what you're gonna think of for this.
It's like green beer.
It's like if you were doing something illegal and instead of arresting you, the cops took you out to party for an entire night, taking you to do whatever you want to do for like an entire day. Like, that's how cool it is to get a review from you guys. And you know what? We got a review.
Oh God.
I'm going to shout you out. So,
Yeah, we do.
why you want to know 1985, thank you so much for your review. Everyone on the podcast is cool except for Tom. He's like the annoying little brother you have to have around because mom said so. Thank you so much.
We know.
I feel like I just partied with cops for a
Can
day.
confirm.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Fine, Mom, we'll take
Talks.
Tom. Well,
I'm the one that probably hangs out with the
close the
cops
book
and then
on this
actually
one.
has sex.
Yeah. Anyway, bring us out, Josh. Get us out of here. Get us the hell right out.
thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves. You know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.
You ready, Tom?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Fine.
No. Take your time.
I mean, we only have 4K video going, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Every second's a gigabyte.
Mhm.